Who is a person you used to admire a lot but have completely lost respect for, and why? Oprah. Oh my God, don't get me started. Bill Cosby was once a very wholesome character, until the truth came out. She was the main reason my mother distrusted everything I did or said as a preteen teenager. She had her convinced I was doing hardcore drugs and going to alcohol-fueled sex parties, ignoring the fact that I had never even been invited to a party to begin with. The minute my mom stopped watching Oprah, I was treated like a person. It has never been more clear to me that Oprah hates children. Not doesn't want them, hates them. Neil Gaiman. I enjoyed his work, but he is dead to me now. It was the way he spoke about the allegations of sexual violence that turned my stomach. Back in high school, I loved my French teacher. She was so kind to me and encouraged me at every opportunity, and I always did my very best in her class. She was part of the reason I wanted to become a French teacher. Cut to when I was in college and working part-time at McDonald's. One night this lady pulled up to the drive-thru speaker and was crazy rude. Just unnecessarily nasty. She pulled around and it was my French teacher from high school. Lost all respect for her at that moment and Ellen DeGeneres. The whole be kind persona while allegedly treating her staff like garbage behind the scenes. That hypocrisy just killed it for me. It's my comfort show, so it's sad to say, but most of the main cast from that 70s show. Jack Horner, the paleontologist. He uncovered some stellar finds in the 70s, wrote some important papers on dinosaur behavior and life cycles, and was one of the scientific consultants for the Jurassic Park series. A massive star for any paleontology kid of the 90s aughts. But he had some whack-ass ideas ranging from Triceratops not being a valid genus to T-Rex being an obligate scavenger to pushing his Build a Dinosaur project, which had the intended goal of making Jurassic Park real with Janet. Dr. Oz, he was my Miles cardiac surgeon at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in the mid-1980s when that's all he did. He seemed to be genuine, empathetic and skilled heart surgeon at the time. What you see him promulgating and endorsing now is a far cry from the man I met years ago. I am very disappointed. Topher was painted as an arrogant douche. Turns out he's the least problematic one. Bill Cosby is a stunning level of hypocrite. He was always lecturing others on how to live their lives more morally. Will Smith comes to mind. Used to love his movies and, of course, Fresh Prince. But now I just see him as a broken, sad human being. I'm gonna date myself for saying this, but Steve Jobs. I was an absolute Apple fanboy growing up in the 90s. I even asked my dad to gift me shares in Apple as birthday presents back when they were a much more reasonable 20-ish a share. I thought he was the tech equivalent of the second coming of Christ for how he returned to Apple to bring it back from the brink of extinction to the world's most valuable company. Only near the time of his death in the late 2000s did I find out about his. Tiger Woods. Sad state for a gazillionaire. Joss Whedon. He was one of the reasons I got into writing and film making when I was younger. Luckily Peter Jackson is the other, and he has not done anything that I know of beside not wear shoes and drink copious amounts of tea. Finding out he was an abusive prick and cast would not let him be alone with Michelle Trachtenberg whilst shooting Buffy and Angel, both shows I loved growing up, has tainted them for me. And his treatment of Charisma Carpenter Oswell. Then there is the stuff around just. Snoop showing Trump support just ruined him for me. If it makes you feel better, I found out that my French teacher who I loved was a pedophile years later. He had been a priest who molested little boys, so the Catholic Church naturally sent him to my all-girls school. Face with rolling eyes. This was in 2009, mind you. Well, if I'm being honest, I initially admired Elon. Admired, not worshipped. Getting more people behind battery-powered vehicles, SpaceX. But I now see him for the embarrassment and crook he is. This one's mine. This one really broke me. I'm not exaggerating when I say Sandman meaningfully changed the course of my life. I met him once in my early 20s, got a very long hug from the guy, floated on air for years about it. Reading about what he has done turned that memory, which was once something very bracing, into something pretty unsettling. She treated celebrities like garbage on camera too, nasty bitch all round. I used to like a lot Anthony Kiedis and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but I cannot close my eyes to the sexual allegations and his preference to extremely young women. It disgusted me. Thomas Edison? Always thought he was this cool inventor growing up. Nope. He was just a rich jerk who stole other people's inventions and profited off of them. He used a team to help him invent things, but took sole credit for them. He also actively tried to suppress other inventors to try and corner the market. The man was a giant douche. Not as widely known, but when the OWN Oprah Winfrey Network launched, it produced non-union shows despite her being a member of SAG-AFTRA. Aside from that, the network talent consisted mainly of people of color. However, the non-union wages they were paid were dismal and didn't elevate the community at all. The network was wildly successful at the time, and could be done better, but didn't care to whatsoever. She was just method acting a French person. The land deals after the horrible fires in Hawaii for one. The girls' school in Africa for another, dubious as hell. Then all the other stuff people are mentioning here. I had a law professor who really believed in me and supported me when I was having a hard time. He helped me get a really good job. After our graduation ball, he sent me an email saying he had a crush on me, and it shattered everything. I thought he supported me for my brain, not because he had sexual feelings for me. This still affects my professional confidence. The podcast, Behind the Bastards, did an excellent series on him, and that tracks with their story. By all accounts, he was a great surgeon but changed after being on television. He comes off very desperate too. A very bad aging timeline for him, sadly. I adored him for so long too. Elon had it in the bag, man. He was literally like a modern-day Tony Stark in people's eyes. All he had to do was keep being chill and update the world on his works, and everyone would have loved him. Then he threw it all away for money and power that he already had. My dad. I grew up and matured, and my eyes were opened. Lots of shit I couldn't see before, or didn't want to, or wasn't able to understand. And Amanda Palmer for enabling him. My mum. I used to hold her leg as a boy. Now, after 2 stabbings and being told I'm going to a children's home every 5 minutes. Nope. This is a heap of the other reasons why my son will always smile and never be subjected to wickedness. Russell Brand, he used to speak of compassion and universal acceptance. Now he's closed-minded and judgmental. John Kricfalusi. He's what got me into animation and art, and I'm truly grateful for that. But he's a very sick man who hurt a lot of girls. I wasn't aware how Topher Grace would get crap about not hanging out with them afterwards until all of the allegations came out, but I totally see why. He was also scared of lesbian cartoon characters kissing. My grandparents. For putting the church above caring for their own children. I went to Montana State during the time he married that student. The student he married wasn't the only student he was involved with. We all knew he was a piece of shit professionally and personally. A lot of us were extremely unhappy he was still employed by the university. Pretty sure that was during the time he had obtained a grant to find another full T-Rex, and was still looking. I honestly don't think he ever even ended up finding another one. It was a big thing around here, Khan sighed. I was dumbfounded that he abandoned his daughter, and then named the computer after her, the Lisa. Posting AI images of crying fans worshipping him during his last tour was just embarrassing. One thing that stands out to me now if I watch Whedon's material is how openly rude all his characters are to each other. The dialogue is a stream of sarcastic and cynical put-downs, even between good guys who are supposedly friends. It's often funny, but in a smug way that would be exhausting if the characters were real people that you actually had to spend time with. It really paints a picture of how he talks to people. The punk band Anti-Flag. They were really good, did a great show, and had a great political message. Then we found out that the singer is allegedly a serial rapist. Whether the rest of the band members knew or not is still debated. They disbanded the day the allegations came to light, and have vanished from the internet. The way they smeared Topher Grace makes me mad. The emeritus king of Spain, Juan Carlos I. It turned out he was a womanizer who cheated on his wife with as many women as he could, and the queen was perfectly happy with her infidelity, cheated on his taxes, and collected commissions from countries like Saudi Arabia. Now he lives in Abu Dhabi and will continue with his prostitutes, never returning to Spain to avoid paying taxes. I used to love Woody Allen. The hippie to MAGA pipeline is so bizarre to me. Eric Clapton, when he came out as an anti-vaxxer during COVID, I thought it couldn't get worse, and then it did. Him being an anti-vaxxer is the least of his problems. Elon Musk. I used to think he was a modern-day inventor breaking barriers and pushing the limits, but with all the news about his history, he comes off like a guy who can bullshit his way into news headlines and steal the credit of the true engineers doing the work. Also, he seems to be a Nazi. History s Elon Musk, I mean that as a slur. Tom Cruise. Thought he was a great action star growing up, then later saw how much he creeps on younger actresses and now don't care to watch his movies anymore. Not to mention he's kind of a nut. Kanye West. Aligning himself with the KKK, aligning himself with Nazis, saying chattel slavery was a choice, the constant attention-seeking, satanic symbolism in his art, I could go on. Agree. And I would have agreed right after Ellen pounded him with a golf club and the scandal became public. Wayne Gretzky. Greatest hockey player ever, but he went MAGA, so fuck him. He ain't near, but he sent me poor quality copper too many times and he is dead to me now. Thanks for sharing this. It's always useful to read stories from people who have personal experience to share. I'll even go so far as to say Hyde and Jackie were my favorite couple on the show. It's a hard watch now. And because so many people are high off their iPhones, and because he died not long after this stuff started to become known, he still seems to get a pass on a lot of this. I have to wonder what the public perception of him and Apple would be if he had lived. Would it be vaguely similar to how Musk is now viewed? Nicki Minaj. I mean, I don't know if I would say I admired, but I was definitely a huge fan. Now I can't even listen to what used to be my fave tracks. Yeah, this one hurt. I was a big fan of his work, but it's hard to separate the art from the artist. The downfall of Bill Burr is wild to me. He ripped on hypocrites and scumbags for 30 years, then jumped in bed with them and chucked it all away. The weirdest part is that he seems baffled as to why people turned on him. I don't understand how self-awareness can completely evaporate overnight. The lesson here is quit idolizing movie stars and other influencers. I have not liked her since she had the stupid dinner years ago promoting black excellence, and everyone was in entertainment or the arts. Not that they should not be celebrated. But not one black scientist, businesswoman, etc. She had the chance to promote black people who weren't in entertainment business, but no. It's deeply sucks. He really had hands, just a massive amount of pure talent and gift. He could have been an all-timer, up there with Dr. Michael DeBakey or Dr. Christiaan Barnard, and would be talked about alongside Cooley and Nelson today. But no, he chose grift and evil. A huge waste. Did not expect to come here and witness some major paleontology drama. He's from my hometown, and one of the two good things I'd mention about that place. When a mental health charity opened a shop in the town center, he turned up on opening day, drew huge crowds and spoke about the incredible work they do. Was always talking about the importance of mental health, how to better treat drug addiction. And now, gestures. Reminds me of Ben Carson. Genuinely groundbreaking neurosurgeon who also smashed barriers for black physicians, deserved to be played by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the biopic. Flushed it all for a failed Republican run for president. It's interesting to reread his work now, too. It hasn't aged well around gender. Back in the day it seemed great he wrote strong women characters. But now what stands out that the strong women only exist in the story to care for these needy useless men. It's exhausting reading. Cesar Chavez, David Bowie, Steven Tyler, etc., etc., etc. Editing to add Eric Clapton, Pete Townsend, and Jimmy Page. Dave Grohl went from the wholesome rock star to the same as the rest of them, yes, even her, when it turned out he had a baby with a woman he had an affair with. The rule he couldn't be alone with Michelle says everything. One of the first tenets of punk is to not worship anyone. There are no heroes, only ideas. DIY, be your own hero. He.S. the 21st century Thomas Edison invented nothing of note, just claims the work of more innovative and creative people. Bill Gates. Let us hope he really helps people in Africa. Win Butler of Arcade Fire. I always figured he and the band were pompous tricks, as Wayne Coyne of Flaming Lips said, but admired their musicianship and songwriting. Turns out he is a major sex pest and had never held himself accountable since the allegations went public. Out of curiosity, what did she do? He is obvious an alcoholic and pill popper. He is truly lucky he has not killed anyone. Canadian MAGA is so embarrassing too. Go back to your own country, dude. Rolf Harris was a national treasure at one point. I loved his TV show and wanted to be a cartoonist. My uni had a bar named after him with a picture he did when he came to open it. When a friend of mine who worked at the BBC first told me the rumors, I didn't believe her. A few years later, of course, we all knew. He wasn't as bad as Seville, but in a way that was worse because I always found Seville creepy. Also the whole Scientology bit. Upvote for not naming a disgraced celebrity. Pretty easy choice, Noam Chomsky. The father of modern linguistics and cognitive science. A personal hero that stood up against U.S. imperialism and advocated for social justice. I mean, the man literally wrote Manufacturing Consent. It's one of the seminal works that forms the basis for my moral and ethical framework in life. And then we find out that he rapes kids. Like what? What in the actual fuck? Giuliani. He's not in my political party, but after 9/11 I kind of admired him. I thought, well, he's a Republican, so I doubt I'd vote for him, but if he goes on to be president someday, he'd at least be rational and open to compromises. Boy, was I wrong. Left his place in history on the altar of Hitler. Russell Brand. I thought he was a good guy. I was wrong. Always has been a sellout person. I'm 42. I remember the coming out episode of her sitcom, and honestly I can't overstate how important that episode was to a lot of queer kids. My parents loved the episode, and that helped me feel like I could come out to them too a few years later. And then she was friends with the president who made it illegal for gay couples to get married. Fucking traitor. Neil Gaiman. Louis C.K. He's not on the same tier of awfulness as most of the other people mentioned here, but I loved his body of work, and now it just feels tainted. Dude tried opening a Scientologist school and lied about it. I'd been done with him for years. I'm going to misquote it terribly, but I remember a tweet or meme or comment that made rounds online about Elon. First he was talking about electric cars and everyone was calling him a genius. I knew nothing about electric cars, so I believed it. Then he was talking about rocket ships and colonizing Mars and everyone was calling him revolutionary. I know nothing about rocket ships, so I believed it. Then he started talking about web programming, and I know a lot about web programming, and it influential your teacher turned out to be. Whether positively or negatively. If she had any idea how much her image serves as a mirror for her students. I'm sorry for your experience. Really? She always seemed like a fake, vile person to me. Noam Chomsky for being in the Epstein files. Joe Rogan, there was a golden era when he had on so many interesting and entertaining guests every week, then he went so anti-woke MAGA and only surrounded himself with sycophants and idiots. Now he's completely dug in, cringe and unself-aware, and I'm genuinely mind-blown that people still listen to him regularly or take him seriously. Jack Horner the nursery rhyme turned out to be pretty bad too. Yes. I loved Ren Stimpy, but he went way off the damn deep end in a really sick way. J.K. Rowling. Just completely tainted a foundational part of my late childhood. Family issues can hurt a lot. I'm sorry for you. It was what he did to the Woz that really did it for me. Oh, and he stank. Like didn't he bathe stank?